One woman is retracing her father's steps decades after he helped the U.S. military document the impact of the atomic bombings of Japan. As we see in this next report, her journey into his past is inspiring her to ensure people understand the devastating reality of what happened.
Using the raw footage.
Leslie Susan is giving a talk about her father's experiences after the atomic bombings. She began retracing his footsteps following a conversation just before his death.
He wanted his ashes scattered at Ground Zero in Hiroshima. We did not know what to do about this strange last wish. To understand that, I had to learn about the central event of his life, about which he almost never spoke.
Her father, Herbert Susan, visited Hiroshima 6 months after the blast as a member of the U.S. Strategic Bombing Survey crew. He was 24. Their objective was to document the bomb's impact. But Herbert's perspective shifted as he filmed the devastation.
After he saw the suffering in the hospitals, and it was so different than the way other cities were that long after the bombing, with people still becoming sicker, with wounds that were not healing. So he thought it was important to make a record of these terrible effects.
After returning to the U.S., he repeatedly asked the military to release the film to show the public the bomb's destructive effects. However, he was told it was confidential and could not be released. Disappointed, Herbert left the military. More than 30 years later, his wish to show the world the truth was realized. A Japanese grassroots movement was granted access to the footage, and a documentary film was produced.
皆さん、どうか終わりまで目をそらさないでください。なんかこれが私め。
The film shows the aftermath of the bombing and testimonies of survivors. It powerfully exposes the reality of nuclear weapons to the world. 3 years later, in 1985, Herbert passed away. Leslie then began tracing her father's footsteps in Hiroshima, where she fatefully met Numata Suzuko, a survivor filmed by her father. As Numata opened up about her experiences, Leslie felt a growing sense of duty to share her story.
I thought I could stand outside the circle and just watch, and instead I was pulled in to the experience. I began to understand that maybe I have a role and a responsibility too.
For the past 2 decades, Leslie has stayed in contact with survivors, and she now understands the meaning of her father's last words.
I think now that he wanted to always feel that he was part of Hiroshima. I think he was so touched and his life was so changed by the atomic bomb. We want to make that terrible experience a reason for peace and a reason for preventing such things from happening again.
As the world faces increased conflict, Leslie's sense of duty to the children of the future to expose the truth about nuclear weapons has never been more timely.